So in my last video, I mentioned how one of my brothers has taken to being abusive, like punching siblings and grabbing them by their throats. And I wanted to explain to you where I think that these violent tendencies are coming from, because I actually do believe that it points back to abusive fundamentalist teachings that we were raised with. I think there are three main reasons. I think that respect, boundaries, and dealing with emotions and trauma are big keys. And I'll explain each of these individually. I want to make it clear that my parents didn't do things like punch us in the face or grab us by our necks. I mean, my parents didn't do that. And so that's why I often wondered why one of my brothers started doing it, because it wasn't an example that was set for him. So first of all, respect. We were taught that respect is something that you're supposed to demand for yourself. My parents would spank us in ways that they were hitting us so that we would learn to respect them, and it taught us to fear them, and that's what they wanted. But at the same time, it's a dangerous way of teaching people respect, because you aren't teaching them how to respect themselves, and so we learned just to do what they wanted, like puppets. And I don't think that's healthy. So now my brother thinks that he is able to demand respect from people, because that's the role model that he was raised with. That's how he thinks that you're supposed to get respect, is to abuse other people so that they fear you and respect you. And so he forces and harms other people to get respect. But the only really healthy kind of respect is respect that's earned with kindness and love. And I think that's pretty clear in the Bible, that when you demand respect with fear, a lot of times it's very unhealthy. And then next is boundaries. We weren't taught to set boundaries for ourselves. We were taught that we were property of our parents, and that we were to do whatever they commanded without questioning it. And so we didn't learn what boundaries were, healthy boundaries, and how to maintain boundaries. So my brother doesn't know what boundaries are for himself, and he doesn't know what other people's boundaries are. So that is why he one of the reasons why he feels free to abuse other people. And then thirdly is not understanding and able to deal with emotions and trauma, because as children we were spanked whenever we cried or showed emotion, because my parents wanted us to submit to them and be quiet, do what they said. So if they said, you need to be quiet right now, we better be quiet right now. Doesn't matter what we're feeling. So he had to stuff his emotions in, and he never learned how to deal with those emotions. And as he got older, they started to come out and explode when he couldn't control them. And we've seen it get worse and worse till now. So those are a few reasons why I think fundamentalist parenting is very dangerous, and we're reaping the results of that in my own family, and I'm pointing that out now. I did want to make a side note about not dealing with emotions and trauma well. For me, I experienced that and it resulted in self-harm. I would scrape up my arms and in my distress when I was upset. And it wasn't a healthy way of dealing with my emotions, but I didn't know what else to do. So I would hide away in the bathroom and I would hurt myself. And I know lots of other girls from my situation suffer with depression and self-harm in similar ways, because we aren't taught to deal with our emotions, and it needs to be taught to us. Our parents can't just tell us that we need to control ourselves. We need to be taught how to deal with emotions, and counselors are extremely helpful with this. So if you're a fundamentalist parent and you realize that you've been doing these things, probably the best thing you can do is get your child to see a counselor or therapist of some kind. So that is my advice.